9:16 on the morning show with Jeff and Will. We are back on this fine Monday morning, very cloudy Monday morning, but to bring us a bright ray of sunshine, here is the editor-in-chief of the Rockland County Business Journal. She has a sad story, which I'm not sure whether it's a bright story or a sad one. Hopefully it's bright, I guess, to go along with the theme. We'll welcome in the editor-in-chief of the Rockland County Business Journal, Tina Traster. Good morning, Tina.
Good morning, Rockland Land. What is my sad story today?
I knew it'd be sad. I knew I'd say bright ray of sunshine, but I knew it'd be a sad story.
Well, that depends.
Okay, I can take depends.
I think that's funny enough a good segue because the jury is very much out as to what the new owner, Gabe Alexander, will do with the shops at Nanuet.
Big question on a lot of people's minds.
We know. Well, here's what we know. Here's what we can. I don't know if surmise is too strong a word, but let's unpack this a little bit and have a conversation. So, first of all, we know that he paid $60 million for both the shops at Nanuet, for a couple of the Outparcels, and for the Sears buildings. If you follow real estate, as Rockland County Business Journal does, we know that he got this property for a song. He really got this property for a song. Why? Well, I guess one thing that we do know from our reporting is, a lot of the tenants there have increasingly become more down market, more transient, kind of month-to-month leases. And so the vitality of the mall, what it had hoped to be, the ideal, that it began as this kind of upscale mall with big brand names and big box stores and high profile, names, increasingly just went downhill over the years. I think that people think that this was a result of the pandemic, but we were reporting long before the pandemic on the state of this mall. And, I don't even want to say it, I don't know that I can say it lost its footing. I'm not sure that it ever had its footing. It started out, strong, but it seemed like Simon Properties filled the mall, with tenants that it has in its other malls. They have such a big footprint across the country. And then I think, and I've said it many times over the years, there was just sort of a complacency to leave the mall as is, and to not capitalize or maximize on the assets. In theory, being Rockland's only outdoor shopping mall of that sort of a configuration, I think Simon Properties really missed the boat and could have used that outdoor space in so many community-centric ways, and they just sort of, let it passively sit there and expected, because they had a Bonefish restaurant or the Regal Cinema, which is still there, or the Apple. I think, maybe they figured they would ride it out on the popularity of the Apple store, but it just wasn't enough. It was never enough. And so it was a continuous and almost at a certain point predictable erosion, because, again, I think that, which leads to the bigger point here, is that a mall is no longer a mall. It is either a community center, it is a focus of activity or art, or civic, public service things, and maybe they did a bit of that, but unless you do it very visibly and unless you do it well, I think it's harder for the community to feel aligned with your with your venture. Also, I do know that even before the pandemic, or maybe really through the pandemic, both the Palisades Mall and the shops at Nanuet, there'd been backroom talks with Clarkstown to say, look, malls across and we're about to put out a story on this, by the way, but malls across the country, probably the world, are metamorphosizing. They're changing what they do, how they do it. They are adding elements from housing to convention centers to even like churches and public spaces. Of course, we know that Amazon and online shopping, the American consumer has changed how they consume and how they buy and how they shop. Malls have to change with the times. They have to be flexible and agile. And there are so many examples across the country of ghost malls or zombie malls. We know that the Palisades Center, for example, is in foreclosure. But Simon, was able to probably carry this losing asset because it has such deep pockets, and it does, it's been doing the right thing in other markets, which is to say, changing up the composition of what's included on their mall site. Again, the shops at Nanuet just sort of stayed static. And, the last story that we had done on the shops when we had taken a look is that the state of retail there had really, really gone down market. A phone store, the phone store, other things that you just don't have to go to the shops at Nanuet for. So the point being here is that for years, I think Clarkstown was skittish about the thought of incorporating housing amongst other elements into either the Palisades Center or the shops at Nanuet. And, now they may see that was short-sighted and that I don't know what Mr. Alexander has in mind for this mall, but I'm pretty sure, I'm just going to guess here, okay, this is me with a crystal ball. I'm pretty sure it's not just going to be his intention to try to maintain these sort of down market, month-to-month tenants indefinitely. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. We'll see anything dramatic, but he's pretty much a visionary in the way he develops. We know that he's got a lot of holdings in the county, and in our story we outline some of his projects. But he's bought a big project here, and this seems to be a man who knows how to make money and who knows how to maximize his investments. And I would say, based on what we've seen from shops at Nanuet over these 10, 12 years, did you say something? Hello?
Sorry, I was screening a call. We had a call come in. I'm by myself in the studio here, but we do actually have a caller that has a question in regards to this topic with you. If you wanted to take it. Sure. We got Gracie on the line. Good morning, Gracie. You're on with Tina Traster.
Hi, Tina. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Gracie.
Thank you. Listen, I thought the idea of the mall was a very screwy idea. I said it from the go. First of all, we live in a cold climate, and the situation of the mall was ridiculous. It's so congested where the stores were. I knew it was going to be a failure. I go to California, and they have them in California, but they have the parking underneath. It makes it completely different. That's number one. So I can have my crystal ball, too. And the second, I think the new owner maybe is going to do housing. God only knows what he's going to do. Let's just put that on the burner and see what happens.
Maybe he will do housing, and maybe that will make sense. I mean, every public official, including George Holman, talks incessantly about the need for senior and millennial housing. And where I was headed, actually, is to say that the TOD, the transit-oriented development, is all that land along Main Street and all that industrial land is adjacent to the shops at Nanuet. Now, when they rezone that area, I don't know whether they had ever thought about incorporating the shops at Nanuet in order to allow residential. But don't you know, now that's what's being chattered about, because of course he may do housing because that might make sense. He may do hotel. He may do convention. For all you know, he could tear the whole thing down. It's really unknown what will happen next.
Well, Tina, please keep your eye on, but we want housing that are going to bring tenants that pay taxes. We don't want people that are going to just drain us, that we're going to pay more taxes, and then more people are going to leave New York State.
All right. Well, let's hope that what Clarkstown will get is what Clarkstown needs, which is housing. Studios.
For all people like me who are not giving up my house unless I could go to somewhere nice and it's not going to cost me more than my house, Tina. That's the bottom line.
I know. This is a national, problem, but we have to. It does need to be solved locally. But what people need to remember is that, private owners essentially, bring their own vision to a piece of property. We don't know. Dave Alexander is he's very hard to pin down. He's not a public person. He doesn't come out and speak of his intentions. However, I'm pretty sure that land would have to be rezoned for residential. So there would be some public process, and people who have a feeling about that should attend public meetings, and we'll let the public know when those are going to be.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you, Gracie. And that was I did have a question in regards to that before Gracie's call. Was that obviously you spoke about the fact that you talk about Mr. Alexander's several other projects in the past. Could you give us a preview as to what those projects are and how those may hint at, we're right now everybody's afraid about, what's going to be there? We don't know. Like you said, he's a very private person, but you said that his previous projects may shine a light on what is possible for the mall at this point. Is there a project or projects in particular that he's taken up in the county before that may put some insight on what exactly is in store for the shops in Nanuet?
Yeah, well, we've been following Mr. Alexander and his enterprises for years, and so we know that for example, he built the Pavilion in Nyack. That's a mainstream apartment building that was constructed on the site of a former cosmetics plant. That certainly added some. Actually, it not only added some cachet to Nyack, but in a sense, it sort of kicked off a little bit of a mini building boom. For exactly what we're talking about, which is, 1 and 2 bedroom, much needed 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. So Mr. Alexander clearly, read the tea leaves. He understood the market. He understood what was needed there, and he built the Pavilion. The one that's really kind of interesting right now, because we've been reporting on it, is the former Camp Champion site, and that was. Well, you weren't from the county, neither was I. But Camp Champion turned into Camp Mirakodim. It was a Jewish camp, and then he bought the former camp for $3.35 million a couple of years ago, and now he's trying to turn that into senior housing. And we've been to some of the recent planning boards on that, and that project has an issue that ties into all of the overdevelopment on West Clarkstown Road. So here, in this instance, he's got, environmental issues that he's facing. But the town has been willing to, I believe, give him the permit, the special permit that he needs to do the senior housing there on this 10-acre parcel. So one thing couldn't be more different than another, but he figures there's a big parcel. He can clear away all the old camp buildings, which is a little sad. And because I'm nostalgic, and start from the ground up and build senior housing. He, as we know, he is also the developer. This is most recent, and this is interesting to me too. So he's developed. He also purchased the Oak Tree Lane bungalow colony, which, if you've ever gone by there, is really a blast from the past. But it was also for people of low income were living there, and he's going to raise all those buildings. Again, former bungalow colony. I guess there's no historic value as perceived, and he's slated to do a mix of studio 1 and 2 bedrooms with a 228 apartments and 4 buildings, and just basically modern housing complex. So you can't put a label on Gabe Alexander. It seems to me he reads the market, he finds the land, he makes the investment, and it seems that, he then curtails his plans to what he thinks the market can bear, what he thinks the market's needed. I think what drives Gabe Alexander is profit. Where is profit? And that's why I say that I would be very surprised to see the shops at Nanuet just sit as it's been for a while. Yes, until he gets his feet on the ground there. But I mean, I see a man who figures out the market and then brings the vision to it. That's led by he's a developer by profit. So we'll see.
Well, it seems like he's a business-minded man, so that makes sense for that to be a major motivator for him. And like you said, it's a little tough to predict right now what the future for the shops of Nanuet hold, but at least we do have some prior knowledge as to what his previous business practices are and what he does in the county, so that may offer a little bit of insight, but we ultimately will have to wait and see. Like you said, it's not really a positive or negative story. It's just a matter of what's to happen next, I suppose. Anyway, but we will hope for the best.
In a way, I actually think it might be a positive story because the shops have been sitting there and they're just sad and hulking, and it seemed like Simon had no incentive to do anything better or different. So in a sense, I think it is a positive story that whatever new energy is breathed into this place, at least there will be new energy. It will hopefully be something that's more productive one way or the other. So I kind of don't see it as a bad story, despite all of the hysteria in the community.
Well, there you go. We will take that positive note and run with it for the remainder of the week. Thank you so much, Tina Traster of the Rockland County Business Journal. If anybody out there right now wants any more information from the Rockland County Business Journal, we recommend it. Make sure you visit their website, RCBiz, that's RCBIZ journal.com, RCBizjournal.com, or you can visit their Facebook page or their Twitter. They do a link to their website as well there. Lots of useful information for you business heads of Rockland County. Tina, thank you so much. Have a great week, and we will talk to you next Monday.
Have a wonderful week, everyone.